You are listening to day number 3 of the Self-Love Challenge series on Wife, Teacher, Mommy, the podcast. Today, we're going to continue the conversation about our self-talk, but we're going to think about it in another way. Let's go. Welcome to the Self-Love Challenge series on Wife, Teacher, Mommy, the podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Sorensen, a former teacher, current homeschool mom, and a certified life coach. Whether you teach in a traditional classroom or from your kitchen table, I'm here to help you not only survive, but thrive as an educator. Let's go on a self-love journey over these next 14 days so you can pour some of that same love you give to your kids, your families, your communities, to somebody who deserves it just as much, yourself. To get started with the free self-love challenge, I recommend starting from the first episode and listening through each day. But to get the full challenge experience, go to wifeteachermommy.com/self-love-challenge to register for free to get the scorecard to track your progress, a daily email with the link to your audio coaching lesson, and your journal prompt. It is free, and registering will get you more support with the challenge. Now let's get to today's coaching lesson.
Well, my favorite events are the Educate and Rejuvenate. All during COVID, everybody was hollering self-care this, and it's not just taking a bubble bath. We really need to know how to take care of ourselves as teachers, as people, as human beings, and this club does that. I've really felt rejuvenated after each of the conferences. I loved the teacher transformation with Kelsey and Chrissy. I really felt like they got really deep into how to process your feelings and your thoughts. But being able to go back on the private podcast and re-listen to those sessions over and over again, or the ones that I, never got to live during the conference, is just amazing. I love having this opportunity. There's always a topic in there that I can go back to and listen to again, or listen to, for the first time. This past year, they did kind of a separate track for parents, homeschool parents and teachers, and then, one for both. But there were some for the homeschool parents that really helped me as a reading teacher kind of really get a good idea of how to teach phonemic awareness and, things that I don't do as an upper elementary educator, but a lot of my kids this year have those gaps. So the resources and teaching is just amazing.
Welcome back to the Self-Love Challenge, my beautiful teacher friend. Yesterday, we talked about our self-talk. We talked about how our thoughts create our feelings, drive our actions, and create our results. We talked about how the way we're thinking isn't for no reason, and how we can get down to what that reason is and think about it a different way while still staying true to ourselves. Now, if you missed either of the previous 2 episodes, day number 1 or day number 2 of the challenge, definitely go back and listen to them. I recommend doing each day of this challenge in order for the best results and doing the journal prompts. I really want you to have observed yourself before we dive any deeper into this challenge. So make sure to do day number 1 and day number 2 if you haven't yet. Today, I want to give you another way to think about your self-talk. So what I want you to do right now is pay attention to some of the thoughts that you noticed yourself think. So today, what I want you to do is note some of the things that you noticed yourself think about yourself as you observed yourself. What were those things? Look at your list now, or remind yourself what they were if you're like driving or doing the dishes or whatever. Did you say anything negative about anything you said or did? I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that. Did you tell yourself anything negative things about your body or about your teaching, about your parenting, about your goals, your house, your classroom? Did you say you're just a total mess? Any of those things. Did you think any of those things in the past 24 hours when you observed yourself? Now, what I want you to do next is think of a student or your own child. Would you say those same things in the same way to them, to your own student or your own child? Would you tell them any of those things if they were in the exact same situation, or would you have a little bit more compassion? Now, you're probably thinking, of course not. I would never say those things to a child. But I want you to think about this. If you were around last year in 2023, I had Christina Kuzmich as a keynote at Educate and Rejuvenate. And she's somebody I've followed for years and I love her. She has this video that came out about 6 years ago, and it's called The Things We Tell Ourselves. And what she does, you see her inviting her friends over, and it's one by one individually, but you just see the video like goes from one to the other, just some really great editing. And she brings each friend in, gives them a hug. They sit on the couch and they talk about their self-talk. And she asks them, what are those things that you're saying about themselves? And they each tell her, they say things like, why didn't I clean my kitchen? Why am I such a mess? You are an exaggerating, selfish liar. You are never going to lose the weight. I'm not a good enough mother. You're a pig. You're lazy. These are all things that were said in that video. And now she asks each one of them as they say these things, can you think of things to prove this? Like, do you actually think this is true? And they were like, no, I'm not actually a selfish, lying exaggerator, or I'm not a pig, or they can realize they can have that compassion for themselves, but that's not what they've been saying. And one of them even said that the more they think about it this way, the more they believe it and the more it perpetuates itself. And that's what we know from the self-coaching model too. Our thoughts drive our feelings, drive our actions, and our results and our beliefs are thoughts that we keep thinking over and over and over again. It makes sense, right? Then they're like, why do we say this to ourselves? They really get to thinking about that. And then what she does is she pulls out a picture of each of her friends. And again, each of these are a one-on-one conversation, but she pulls out a picture of them as a little girl. And she's like, now, will you say those things to her? And some of them just start tearing up. It's like a, powerful moment. One of them even said, she's happy. I don't want to crush her spirit. She doesn't want to crush that little girl's spirit. So why do we crush our spirit now? We are still that little girl or that little child, that person who we once were. They are still in us. We are still them. Then she asks, what would you say to them instead? What would you say to them instead of the way you're currently thinking about it? And what I love about that, I love this video. I will link to it in the show notes. But what I love about this is it's really another way to think about exactly what we talked about yesterday. Because we talked about how we can think of another thought that still, maybe you still ideally do want a clean house. So that's why you're beating yourself up about it. But the way you're going about it, beating yourself up, that's not helping anyone, right? Maybe you do still want to lose weight and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the way we're going about thinking about it. So what would you say instead to not crush their spirit, to show love and compassion, while you can maybe still have those goals or things you want to do, but what are different ways we can think about it? And one of those ways is by thinking of ourselves as still that little child. What would you say to them instead? It's so powerful. And whatever you would say to that young child, that can be your new thought. That can be your new way about thinking of this thing. So I love this whole concept. It's so powerful. And so I want you to think about that. And then the next thing I want you to do in your journal is I want you to actually, just like in the video, I want you to find a picture of your younger self. And I have one of me that I love to use for this exercise that I put a picture of myself next to my computer. I've had it on my vision board before. I have this picture of me, kindergarten Kelsey, with my side ponytail. And it's like this cute little pink dress. And that is the little girl that I think about when I find myself in the negative self-talk. What I want you to do is I want you to get out that picture and I want you to have that picture out and write a letter to that child. I want you to think of your younger self and tell them all the wonderful things they have to look forward to in their life. What I want you to do is I want you to brag about your current self to your past self. All the things you've accomplished, all the lessons you've learned. Remember, they don't know anything that you've accomplished since you were a young child. And this concept that I want to share with you now that is called the gap and the gain. And so often we forget to look at, we look at where we are and we compare it to this goalpost that we just keep moving, right? So we're never there. Instead of looking, and that is the gap. That is when we're thinking in the gap, we're thinking we're always at this place and then we're never going to get to where we need to get to. Instead, we look at the gain, we look at, wow, how far have we come? And by writing a letter to this little girl or boy who you want to be so compassionate to, you want to share, wow, this is how far we have come. This is what you have to look forward to. I want you to brag about yourself. And this is a really powerful exercise. So I highly encourage you to try it out. This will be sent to you in your email for your journal entry for today. And another important part about self-love is taking care of our bodies, which is what we're going to get into more tomorrow. But I want to touch on how that even ties into our self-talk. You may or may not know this, but our negative self-talk actually has an impact on our bodies. Our amygdala, which is the part of the nervous system that sends like a signal saying like, hey, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I perceive a threat. And that negative self-talk can be perceived as a threat. And episodes 110, 111, 112 on Wife Teacher the Mommy, the podcast, go more into it if you want to learn more about that. But really, this negative self-talk, it impacts our thoughts, feelings, actions, all that, but it also impacts our bodies. It can send us into the stress cycle, into a stress response. And that can pump more cortisol into our bodies. I've actually been doing a lot of research on this as I've been working on my book, which should be coming out later this year. I'm really excited. It's tentatively titled The Thriving Teacher. So if you love this challenge, be sure to stay tuned for the book. But it really just shows us how important our self-talk is. So it is very important to just take a look at that self-talk that we are having. And instead, we can soothe our bodies, soothe ourselves, just like we would with that little child who is still there in you. So for the next 2 days of the challenge, on days 4 and 5, we are going to be talking about our bodies. So stay tuned in the self-love challenge. I don't want you to go anywhere. You are making so much progress with just this 10 minutes a day and journaling. But between now and then, make sure to do your journal prompt that we just talked about, which is to write that letter to your younger self about all the incredible things you've been doing, and you may just be surprised about what comes up. Can't wait to see you tomorrow at the Self-Love Challenge. Thank you for participating in our Self-Love Challenge. For the complete challenge experience, make sure to go to wifeteachermommy.com/self-love challenge to get the scorecard and a daily email with each of the journal prompts for free. And if you're enjoying this challenge, please consider sharing the love by sharing that same link, wifeteachermommy.com/self-love challenge, with a teacher friend or a homeschool friend or all of the people you know who might be interested in this free resource. We have a mission to help as many educators as possible, whether they teach children in a classroom or in their living rooms, to not only survive as an educator, but to thrive in teaching and life. This challenge has been brought to you by Wife Teacher Mommy Club, my signature coaching program created especially for teachers and homeschool parents. Inside the club, you can join us for weekly live life coaching with me and fellow club coaches, VIP access to our summer and winter Educate and Rejuvenate conferences, a library of resources to save you time, and even a private podcast feed where you'll get to listen to every single coaching call we've ever done, all the Educate and Rejuvenate sessions, and so much more. If you love this challenge, why not spend just a few minutes checking it out and seeing if it's right for you? It may just be the ultimate gift of self-love that you could give yourself, because it'll help you take what you've learned in this challenge from the 2x level to the 10x level. So go to wifeteachermommy.com/club to learn more. I would love to see you there, but either way, I will keep seeing you right here on Wife Teacher Mommy, the podcast. If you are listening to this right now, that means you listened all the way to the tail end of this episode, even after the outro. And if you want more where this podcast is coming from, I've got you. If you are hearing this message right now, that means you still have time to grab our limited time offer to join us in Wife Teacher Mommy Club for just $14 for your first month in a celebration of the release of our Self-Love Challenge. For the month of February 2024, you can get your first month of the club for just $14 instead of the normal $37 for your first month. This is a great way to try out the club and see if it's right for you, all while getting lots more support during the Self-Love Challenge. You'll be able to come to our coaching calls and ask your questions, get personalized support from me and fellow Wife Teacher Mommy Club coaches. And if you decide to join us on the annual plan, you're all in and you're going to join us for a year, you'll get an even bigger discount plus some exclusive February-only swag, including a planner and a teacher tee. So go to wifeteachermommy.com/club to learn more about the club and see all that it has to offer. Going to check out the sales page is not a firm commitment, so just go check it out and see if it's for you. It just might be the ultimate gift of self-love that you could give yourself. I hope to see you on the next coaching call inside Wife Teacher Mommy Club.